The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
Let me start with this statement. As we all now know, based upon the verdict that was rendered in this court in November, Ahmaud Arbrey was murdered. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy on many, many levels. A son, a brother, a young man with dreams was gunned down in this community. As we understand it, he left his home apparently to go for a run, and he ended up running for his life. The three men that are now before this court chased him in a residential neighborhood for at least 5 minutes in pickup trucks, armed with a shotgun and a .357 revolver. The state mentioned this today about the time period, but I do want to put that time period in context. And the only way I could think to do so may be a little theatrical, but I think it's appropriate. I want us all to get a concept of time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit silently for 1 minute. That's approximately a minute. Again, the chase that occurred in Satilla Shores occurred over about a 5-minute period. And when I thought about this, I thought from a lot of different angles, and I kept coming back to the terror that must have been in the mind of the young man running through Satilla Shores. Watch that with context. And when I say context, after hearing the evidence in this case, again, thinking about a young man that had been running at that point for almost 5 minutes, and it is a truly disturbing scene. And we got there because Travis McMichael's father saw Ahmaud Arbrey hauling down the street and calls out, "Let's go." At that point, Travis McMichael, despite whatever may have been going on in his life at that time, with regard to family or otherwise, just goes, grabs a shotgun and goes because he assumes that it is the right thing to do. Mr. Bryan, he joined in after calling out to the McMichaels. Y'all got him? Claimed he didn't know what was going on, but obviously wanted to know if this individual who was running through the neighborhood, who he didn't know, had been caught in some way. Said, quote, "I figured he'd done something wrong, but I didn't know for sure." All right, that wasn't actually the quote. Those quotes are two separate quotes. Didn't know for sure. I thought he would get away. And this is the part that is disturbing to me with Roddy Bryan. If the guy would have stopped, this would have never happened.
Welcome to the Daily Read, people. That was the judge right before he sentenced the killers of Ahmaud Arbrey. Now, you can tell he was messed up about this whole affair. You can actually tell during the trial that, you know, he has to be impartial, but you can tell he was really disturbed about this whole thing. You see, this is white privilege on display. It's white privilege on display. They wanted Ahmaud Arbrey to stop and talk to them. You don't have to stop and talk to nobody in this country. But in their minds, they felt like, you know, he's probably not even human. You know, the minds of some of these white supremacists is outrageous. And the judge gave him 120 years apiece. 2 of them without the possibility of parole. I think Roddy Bryan, the guy who jumped in the chase, and you know, he didn't even know what was going on. He didn't even stop and ask, was Ahmaud all right? He just automatically assumed, you know, he's black and running from these 2 white guys. For all he know, they could have been trying to kidnap him. He didn't know. The judge didn't spare him neither. The judge gave him 120 years with the possibility of parole. You know. It was a very eye-opening sentencing. And I suggest some of you guys go check it out. Go to YouTube and find the sentencing of Ahmaud Arbrey's killers. You know, type it however it is you type it in, because this judge, he did something that I haven't seen done before in court. He actually took a 1 minute. He took a pause for 1 minute just to show you how long 1 minute was. And when he came back off of that 1 minute, he said that young man ran for 5 before he decided to fight for his life. That was eye-opening. I've never seen nothing like that. And you can tell the judge put a lot of thought in this. You know, the way he talked to these people to let them know they had no remorse. Even when you go back and rewatch the video after the shooting, as soon as he shot Ahmaud and the man fell dead in the street, he turned his back on him and walked away like it was nothing. You know, I think, to be honest with you, and I'm not gonna start no conspiracy theories. You know, this is alleged. I think that they've done something crazy before. Maybe kill somebody. I don't know. It was too natural. It was too natural. I've been involved in the streets. I've seen guys who thought they were cold killers do something crazy, and you can see it in their reaction. They were shocked by it. These guys was cold and calculating. You know. You didn't see no surprise, no hey, what did I do? You didn't see none of that out of these guys. Straighten up the camera here. You didn't see that type of reaction from these two. Another thing I noticed, you know, the arrogance of, and these are not wealthy, rich white people. This is just the normal of the road working class white people who felt like they had the privilege of telling you, because you black and running through their neighborhood, you need to stop and talk to me. You know, we living in some dangerous times. I want to thank his name is All-Star Kid 124. All-Star Kid 124, I want to thank you for letting me know that my recordings was recorded low on iHeartRadio, and I haven't checked it in a while. I went and checked my iHeartRadio account and listened to some of my recordings, and some of my recordings were recorded real low. So I had to go in and rework some things on my mixer and get everything proper. Hopefully this will fix the problem. If it doesn't, I'm gonna check it. But if you feel like it doesn't, contact me, reach out. You know what I'm saying? Email me again. Let me know. I want to thank you though, cause it was 4 videos, I think, four shows that I did that I went back and looked at, and all 4 of them were recorded real low. You can still hear my voice, but it was hard to pick up, you know, the sound. So I want to thank you for letting me know about that. Like I said, I do all my own work, all my own editing. I'm a one-man band, one-man show. If you want to give or donate to the show, I will leave the description to the Cash App below this thing, below this video. And when we get back off this next commercial break, we're gonna jump into this man that got arrested, one of the leaders of the Oathkeepers. This is some serious stuff. Sedition charges is serious. This is like 20 years charges. And when we get back off this commercial break, we're going to talk about that and how this is going to link directly into Trump's lap. And I want you guys to pray for the Ahmaud Arbrey family. Pray for everybody involved. You know, even the jurors, the lawyers. Pray for everybody, because, you know, this was a crazy ordeal. And in America, racism has always been here. It's always been a factor. No matter how much people put their heads in the sand and try to act like everything is kumbaya and there's nothing to see here, the plot has been going on for a long time. So when we get back off this commercial break, we're going to talk about that.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not...
Charges filed today against a plotter of the January 6th insurrection are not only the most serious we have seen, they are also the most descriptive of the actions of all who took part in the events up to and around that day. Seditious conspiracy. That's the charge.
Welcome back to the Daily Read, people. Okay. I like putting puzzles together. I love this. You know, it makes sense now. If we go back, all the way back to the presidential debates, and there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that don't make sense from when it was actually said. Okay, when you go back and look at it at that time period, it didn't make sense. See, these people were plotting for a long time. And I'm going to tell you right now, I really have a feeling that the president was involved in this plotting. Him and some of his cohorts, people up under him, his underlings. You see, President Biden, he gets, confidential information once you run for president. Why? Because if you win, they want you to already be up on what's going on. Somebody must have told Biden that the Proud Boys, along with other racist groups, were plotting. Because when that man asked Donald Trump at that presidential debate, you know, what you got to say to the Proud Boys, actually, it wasn't the guy who was hosting the debate. It was Joe Biden that said, what about the Proud Boys? Now, why would Joe Biden say that? Probably because he already done had information that there were certain groups out here that's plotting. When Donald Trump said, stand back, stand by, that was a signal out in the open. I really didn't get it at the time. I had to do my research on the Proud Boys and their leader, the guy that supposedly had been a snitch already on another case involving marijuana down in Florida. Notice a Florida connection. Okay, we finna go there again. We have another connection. He was down in Florida, supposedly helping the police bust a marijuana ring. You know, so this guy right here, when Donald Trump said, "Proud Boys, stand back, stand by," I really didn't understand it then, but now all the pieces are coming together. When McCarthy said that Donald Trump holds responsibility for all of this, the January 6th riots, then he flew down there to Mar-a-Lago. And then he flew back to Washington. He changed his tune. Something must have been said to him like, look, everybody that was involved can go to jail because this is sedition. So now he has to protect Donald Trump because, to be honest with you, I don't think that McCarthy, the way he reacted, put it this way, the way McCarthy reacted directly after the January 6th incident, that let me know I don't think McCarthy had anything to do with it. But some of the members under him probably did. And Donald Trump probably let him know that if they find something out, that's going to snatch a lot of your people out of Congress with charges. So this is some deep stuff. And I'm going to tell you, the FBI is involved in this now. This is not no regular trespassing. Everybody trying to say it's trespassing because they know that people high up in Congress probably had something to do with this. Shit just got real. Let's get to the next video.
Today, a man named Elmer Stewart Rhodes III, working class hero, became the first to be arrested and charged with seditious conspiracy in an indictment unsealed by the Department of Justice. Now, he is the founder of the far-right military dress-up gang called the Oathkeepers. Now, that's a big deal for a number of reasons. First, here is how the law defines seditious conspiracy, and I'll quote for you. If two or more persons conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States. Now, that law and that charge, seditious conspiracy, was most notably used against Puerto Rican nationalists in the 20th century. In fact, that moment that they were charged for was the most violent thing to happen in the Capitol before January 6th. That's when 4 of them stormed into Congress and opened fire, injuring 5 representatives.
Understand this, people. Understand this, okay? Sedition. Everybody that went into that building could be charged with sedition. Again, this is where that white privilege pops up. Okay? Now, I know y'all getting tired of me hearing you say that, but you got to hear it. If I drive a getaway car and somebody goes in there, rob a bank, and kills the man guarding the bank, I can be charged with the murder too. Understand how this works. Those people shouldn't have been there. They did not have a right to be there because they didn't file the proper paperwork to march on the Capitol. Their paperwork was meant to go around the rally at the White House. Donald Trump sent them down there to the Capitol. They wasn't supposed to be there. The Capitol Police already knew some people gonna show up anyway. They usually rough them up, send them home. That's it. But a crowd that size, they wasn't supposed to be there. So that means the Oathkeepers was plotting, Proud Boys was plotting, members of Congress was plotting, but they needed that crowd to blend in with the crowd. Again, if I drive the getaway car and I'm not knowing what this man in that bank doing, I know he finna rob it, because we all here trying to stop the the accountant. We all here trying to stop Biden from being president. I don't know what the Oathkeepers are doing, but I'm here with them. They can be charged with that woman's murder. They can be charged with sedition. Everybody that was there, all 700 of these people, can literally be charged with sedition. But again, what they did was they said, no, these people were duped. We're just going to get them a normal trespassing charge, get them out the way. Now we finna see the big dogs come down. Now we finna see the plotters, the planners, the schemers, the scammers. We finna get to the meat and potatoes of what's going on with all of these people that was at this Willard Hotel plotting. Oh, yeah. They actually had some kind of base of operations. I'm going to talk about that a little later on. They had a base of operations at the Willard Hotel.
But in recent decades, it has also been used against right-wing anti-government groups, including a group of white nationalists who were charged with sedition and ultimately acquitted by an all-white jury in the 1980s after they tried to overthrow the government and establish an all-white colony in the Pacific Northwest. Also used against a Christian right-wing militia group called the Hutari back in 2012. They were alleged to be part of their own revolutionary plot to overthrow the government, although the judge ultimately threw out the charge. So it's got a sort of checkered history in some ways, but there's nonetheless a clear precedent set for charging far-right groups with seditious conspiracy, which brings us to the Oathkeepers, yet another right-wing anti-government group.
Remember what I said, people, in some of my other shows. They just gave you other examples. They just gave you other examples of right-wing white nationalist people trying to overthrow the government and create some kind of white country inside of America for just white people. The sedition charges didn't work. But what I'm trying to explain to you is, I've said it on my previous shows, since the Civil War, they have been plotting, planning. They just ain't had somebody that's charismatic like Donald Trump to lead the way. He's a goofball, but he got a lot of charisma. He's the wrong leader to be trying to usher in some type of white power thing, because it'll never work with Donald Trump. It'll never work. But they done put all of their bread in one basket. And now they've exposed themselves. They have a task force now that goes after domestic terrorists now. They just started it. The FBI just started a nationwide task force to watch for these people now. You see, at first, they was under the radar. We knew, but we didn't know. I've been knowing that these people been slick, putting a nephew over here in Congress, an uncle over here in the governorship or lieutenant governor, a lawyer over here, a businessman over here. They've been doing this. They've spread out like fingers. They spread out all over America. and they've taken over the Republican Party. They used to be Dixie Democrats, but minorities took over the Democratic Party. So now they didn't have a home no more. So now Ronald Reagan, we're going back to Ronald Reagan, pulled all of these people. When Ronald Reagan should have just left them people to fend for themselves. Y'all going about y'all business. He wanted the votes. So he pulled all of these people, these bigots who used to be Dixie Democrats, he done pulled all of these people into the Republican Party.
Ben, let me start with you just because there's a few things here that are notable. I mean, one is the out in public nature of this in the extremist corners of the internet or on Alex Jones's show, where you have them saying, like, it's going to be bloody. We're going to stage a bloody, violent opposition to Joe Biden, not in a secret back channels.
Yeah, I mean, reading this indictment this week, there was something ringing in the back of my head. I was like, I remember reading this somewhere. And it was on The Donald on January 5th. They were talking about stacks of 6 and 12. Once you get to the Capitol, make sure you find your stack. Make sure you're talking through walkie-talkies. Make sure you have earpieces. Make sure you leave your ammo at home specifically, because we'll come back in the middle of the night. Once we secure the Capitol without the weapons, we'll come back and we'll bring the weapons along from the QRFs. They brought this up, the day before January 6th in a very public forums. And then it all comes up again in this indictment, in these signal messages that the Oathkeepers were, pushing in the days beforehand as well. So this cannot be a coincidence, really.
This is what you call hiding in plain sight. They did the hiding in plain sight so smooth, like they already had this planned. So the government try to watch for secret messages, secret communications. So these people will go on Alex Jones' show. They would talk to Fox News and friends and things like that and say stuff knowing that the people who they talking to are watching and getting the message. This is right out of a criminal playbook. This is so smooth. And like I said, most people would think in their mind, okay, the feds got to be on this because they're watching all the secret channels. No. They think because they doing all of this out in the open that the government is just going to say, nah, they just talking. No. This was communications. If in other words, let me break this down for my people like me to break it down for them. If me and you live across the country from each other, you in California and I live in Tennessee, and we start a hate group and we don't want to get on no secret channels because the feds might pick up on it. So say we're going to meet up in Texas. I'll get on the podcast and I'll tell you, look, man, watch my podcast and you'll learn everything you need to know. So you watch my podcast that night and I say, yeah, we're going to meet up in Texas, man. It's going to be wild. Bring your guns, bring your ammunition, bring your buddies, bring a couple of coolers of beer. Now, I'm saying it out loud, and to other people, they might be thinking, oh man, them guys just finna meet up and go hunting. No. They wide open with their communications with each other because they knowing that the feds is probably watching the secret stuff. This is some stuff straight. These people, but like I said, it didn't work because they picked the wrong leader. Donald Trump is the wrong man to be trying to lead a white power revolution. How?
I mean, realistically here, how similar these plans were in public to the ones that were shared on Signal between Stewart Rhodes and all of these other folks with the Oathkeepers. So yeah, this was a very public plan. And like you said, there are a lot of loose threads here that are finally kind of coming together, I think.
Yeah, one of them, I think, is Roger Stone. And Betsy, obviously, he has been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. And I don't know if he's come in yet and taken the fifth, or he has announced his intention to do so. But, Stone really is the linchpin here we know he's an associate of the president. We know he's a friend of the president, talks to the president, and we know he's there in the Willard Hotel being guarded by Oathkeepers on the 5th and 6th.
That's right. Now, the closeness of Stone's relationship with Trump certainly is not on that day what it had been in the past. But there's no question that Trump knew Stone and knew him well enough, close enough, long enough that he issued him a literal get out of jail free card toward the tail end of Trump's presidency. Now, Stone has been adamant and consistent that he had no foreknowledge of the violence that was planned. And as that video of him that you played shows, what he says is these were people who were protecting him. He didn't know they were going to attack the Capitol. The juxtaposition with the public commentary that Oathkeepers was making is really interesting. And I don't want to suggest that I'm aware of conversations that didn't happen, because I'm not. But what we know, what we just talked about, is that the Oathkeepers weren't being secretive about what they were going to do that day. And that raises questions that just make people in the security research space bang their heads against the wall. Why were journalists, researchers, people, private citizens reading this stuff on the Donald.win and taking it seriously, but DHS and the FBI weren't?
Well, let me explain that. The reason why they weren't, because number one, Donald Trump was in office when all of this went down. He runs the Justice Department. So he could easily tell them, man, look, them people ain't doing nothing. Leave them alone. The whole time he's in on the plot. Things is about to get real serious. You see, a lot of people was mad at the Attorney General. They was mad at him because he was taking too long. They thought he was going to try to let these people off the hook with a few minor charges. No. Number one, they denied him a chance to be on the Supreme Court. And even though I know he's not supposed to let that be involved in his decision making on what his next steps is to do, trust me, people, he's not finna play with these people. It might take him a little longer than what we would want to happen. We want to see satisfaction now on getting these people. But more indictments is coming. That's why you see a lot of these congressmen not going to sit down and talk to the January 6th committees, because they don't want to incriminate themselves. They know it's coming. And if the Republicans win back the House, they're going to try to shut this down. But see, that's the thing about it. Now that the Department of Justice is involved in it, they can't shut it down. Because Department of Justice doesn't go by the Congress and the Senate. They got oversight, but they can follow the law and the truth wherever it takes them, even if they got to put handcuffs on senators. So things is about to get real, people. It's about to get real. We're finna get into the next commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to go into further detail on what's going on with this.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Me and Bae gon' always be tight, though you not with me every single day and night. Even when they start to acting like a fool, yeah, they loving every single thing you do. You know that they can always be themselves. They love each other more than anybody else. And every day as you see them on YouTube, you know there's not one, it'll always be just two. Two stupid Emily, two stupid Emily, two stupid family. They'll make you scream. It makes me wanna sing. It's a family thing, a family. Two stupid family, stupid family. They'll push your buttons. It makes me wanna cry. It's a family thing, a family. Two stupid family.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Talk to me, what did you see that leads you to believe that this was a coordinated attack? And I would like our other witnesses to engage in that as well.
Yeah, I'm able to provide you a quick overview of why I think it was a coordinated attack. One, these people came specifically with equipment. You're bringing climbing gear to a demonstration. You're bringing explosives. You're bringing chemical spray, such as what Captain Mendoza had talked about. You're coming prepared. The fact that the group that attacked our West Front, attacked our West Front approximately 20 minutes before the event over at the Ellipse ended, which means they were planning on our agency not being at what they call full strength, watching the other event, saying, hey, that event's ending, okay, everybody get on post, they're going to be marching our way, knowing that we may not be at full strength at that time. And then also the fact that we were dealing with 2 pipe bombs that were specifically, set right off the edge of our perimeter to, what I suspect, draw resources away. I think there was a significant coordination with this attack. A clear lack of accurate and complete intelligence across several federal agencies contributed to this event, and not poor planning by the United States Capitol Police. We rely on accurate information from our federal partners to help us develop effective security plans. The intelligence that we based our planning on indicated that the January 6th protests were expected to be similar to the previous MAGA rallies in 2020, which drew tens of thousands of participants. The assessment indicated that members of the Proud Boys, white supremacist groups, Antifa, and other extremist groups were expected to participate on January 6th, and that they may be inclined to become violent.
That right there, people, that was a year ago. It all starting to make sense now. That was a whole year ago when that man testified right after the January 6th riots. And even back then, he was saying this was coordinated. This wasn't no group of people got together and shit got out of hand and a riot just sprung up out of nowhere. No, this was coordinated. These people brought weapons. These people brought climbing gear. Who goes to a Trump rally with climbing gear? They was ready. And to be honest with you, I think more of those 700 people should be charged with sedition, especially the people who brought climbing gear. You had a guy brought zip ties. What is the zip ties for? You trying to capture one of these congressmen? That's pre-planned. That's premeditated. It's not like you came with a colorful toboggan that had Trump name on it, taking pictures, and all of a sudden a riot breaks out and you in the middle of it. No, you literally whoever brought that wood to set up a gallows to hang Mike Pence, they should be charged with sedition. They should be charged with sedition because you literally prepared that. You prepared that. You brought that.
Who are already facing conspiracy charges, that they were building this case. And what you see in the documents that were unsealed today is this allegation that they say that after the November 3rd, 2020 election, that Rhodes and these other members of the Oathkeepers conspired to oppose by force the execution of the laws governing the transfer of presidential power by January 20th, 2021. This is a charge that prosecutors have been looking at for some time. Merrick Garland and the leaders of the Justice Department tapped the brakes a little bit over the last few months to make sure before this went ahead that they could sustain this in court. And
that's very important, people, and I'm glad they did that. And I know a lot of people was wondering when Merrick Garland was gonna go after the more serious people, and it's gonna be more to come. It's gonna be more to come. I'm gonna let y'all know something right now. I'm gonna make my predictions. I don't think Trump is gonna run for president again. He just might be in handcuffs. If he does run for president, the only reason he's running for president is because he knows once he becomes president, if he runs and becomes president, all investigations have to stop. Not because he's above the law, but because there's an unwritten rule that Department of Justice, the Justice Department, don't want to get involved with messing with the president while he's in office. He has the job of running an entire country that has millions of people in it. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is Donald Trump is running for his life. He's running for his life. If he runs, that's what he's doing. He's trying to ensure that he doesn't go to prison. Because like I said, he's an old man. And being the age he is, 5 or 10 year prison sentence, that's a death sentence for him. He'll never come out of there unless it's in the body bag.
Ellie, seditious conspiracy, what does it mean?
So, Allison, let me break that down into its two component parts. First of all, sedition, the legal term sedition as it's charged here, means made an effort to interfere with a lawful function of the federal government. As applied here, they're talking about the effort to obstruct Congress from counting the electoral votes. And then the second part of that is conspiracy. Conspiracy just means an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. Here, the alleged conspiracy goes way beyond 2 or more people.
Now, listen to what he just said, people. This conspiracy goes way beyond 2 or more people. They just locked up the leader of the Oathkeepers. If this guy doesn't stand firm and start telling on people in Congress, that people that worked in the Trump administration, you're going to see a lot of more people in handcuffs. Because conspiracy, they might not have even been there at the riot, but if they're involved in the conspiracy, all of them is you might as well say they should have went to the riot anyway. That goes back to what I was saying about you drive the getaway car and the other person kills somebody in the bank, you still can get charged with that murder. It's about to get real out here.
Has not been, I would say, receptive to the committee in his public statements in recent weeks and months. Obviously, he's railed against the committee. He's argued they're investigating the wrong things. But he does have extremely valuable information here to the committee's investigation. He has told multiple people that he spoke to Donald Trump on January 6th, and that he, was playing this sort of positive role where he was telling him to call off the violence. And
remember what McCarthy said at the beginning. McCarthy said that Trump holds responsibility for this. That's why, see, it's layers to this. It's layers to this. What I'm trying to say is they tried to keep McCarthy out of it because he's basically the leader of the Republican in the House. There was at least 5 or 6 Republicans under him that was involved in this. When he came out and said Trump holds responsibility for this, he flew down there to Mar-a-Lago, talked to the man, and more than likely found out how much responsibility he had involved in it and who in Congress was with this. McCarthy's hands is tied now. He probably don't even like Donald Trump. But he don't want to lose the people under him to jail, because that means he's going to lose the House. Think about that. That trip he took to Mar-a-Lago, they must have told him something or showed him something, because when he took that trip down there and came back, he was a whole different person. Lindsey Graham, the same thing. Lindsey Graham was like, man, I'm done. I can't believe this even happened. A few times talking to Trump and some of Trump people, Lindsey Graham the same way. Like, man, we gotta stick with this guy now. That's why I'm trying to tell you people, this is finna reach into the upper echelons of Congress. There probably have people that plotted with these Oathkeepers inside Congress, because there was a thing that was said about how a couple of days before the riots, there was a tourist group that came to Congress and was given a tour by some congressmen and congresswomen. There were maps of the house that was found on some of the rioters. They had actual hand-drawn maps of how to maneuver and who offices where. This was all coordinated. And by the time they get done with this is going to shoot straight into Congress. There's going to be people in Congress that was probably involved with this. It's about to get real.
Political calculation, and that he wanted to be speaker if Republicans take back the House, and he believed with his lay of the land that he could not do that without Donald Trump's support. So even though he had condemned him on the House floor and said he was responsible for the violence, even though he had had these one-on-one conversations with President Trump trying to call off the mob, he decided it would be best to get an endorsement from Trump to be seen as an ally once again. And so he went down to Mar-a-Lago. And in Miss Cheney's view, that
this guy right here, I understand where he's coming from, and I like his commentary, but he's wrong. He thinking in his mind that McCarthy went down there because he just trying to get in the good graces of Trump. McCarthy went down there and found out that this plan that didn't involve him was bigger than just a few rioters. Now his hands is tied. He can't expose too much, because if he exposes too much, at least 5 or 6 senators and at least 5 or 6 congressmen might go to jail. That means that's going to take away allies inside Congress. It's going to take away from allies that run with these lunatics. They're going to jail. It's about to get real serious. And I'm hoping that Merrick Garland can get this contained before the midterm elections. Because if he can get this under wraps and get these people in jail that need to be in jail before the midterm elections, then you're going to start to see just how far-reaching this plot went into Congress, probably into the White House and their administration. It's about to get real, people. I hope y'all learned something from today, man. Keep your eyes open. Keep Ahmaud Arbrey's family in your prayers. And the family of all people that was involved in that. And until next Sunday, this is The Daily Read, and I'm out.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Bring in the business.